David, the new shepherd king, a man chosen by God himself, was a leader unlike any other. He loved God with all his heart, seeking his guidance in every decision and action. His devotion was a shining example to all. After many battles where God granted him victory after victory, he became king over all Israel, uniting the tribes under his wise rule. He established Jerusalem as his capital city, a place he envisioned as a center of worship in God's presence. But something was missing. A deep longing resonated within him. It was the Ark of the Covenant, God's special golden box, a symbol of his very presence among them. The Ark held the 10 Commandments, the very foundation of God's law and covenant with his people. It was more than just a box. It was where God promised to be with his people, a tangible connection to the divine. It had been away for years, residing in a distant town, far from the heart of Israel. David yearned for God's presence to be at the heart of his city, to dwell among his people in Jerusalem. He gathered leaders, wise men, and the whole nation, calling them together for a momentous occasion. Their mission was clear: to bring the Ark home, back to Jerusalem. They built a new cart, carefully crafted and beautifully decorated, fit for carrying the sacred Ark. And so, they started a joyful parade, filled with music, singing, and shouts of praise. Everyone was excited, their hearts filled with anticipation, eager to welcome God's presence back into their midst. The people cheered, played instruments with skill and passion, and celebrated with unrestrained joy. With hearts full of hope and expectation, they set out on their journey. It felt like the best day ever, a moment of unity and celebration. They were confident, believing they were doing everything right, following the proper protocols. The Ark, the symbol of God's presence, was finally coming home to Jerusalem. The parade was a vibrant tapestry of joy, a river of celebration flowing through the streets. People danced with unbridled enthusiasm, their faces lit up with pure happiness. It was a day of immense excitement and anticipation as they prepared to bring the Ark to its new home. But the joyous atmosphere was shattered when disaster struck. A sudden and unexpected tragedy that would forever change the course of the day. The oxen, pulling the cart with the Ark, stumbled unexpectedly, their footing failing on the uneven ground. The cart wobbled precariously, its ancient wooden frame groaning under the weight, and the Ark, the sacred symbol of God's presence, nearly fell to the ground. Uzzah, in a desperate attempt to prevent the Ark from falling and being damaged, reached out his hand and touched it. But God had issued a clear warning, a divine decree. No unauthorized person was to touch the Ark, for it was holy and set apart. Uzzah in that instant died instantly, struck down for his disobedience. The music, once so lively and celebratory, abruptly stopped, silenced by the shocking event. The joyous celebration transformed into a scene of shock, horror, and profound sadness, as the people grappled with the sudden and tragic loss. David was deeply confused and afraid, struggling to understand the events that had just unfolded. He had only wanted to honor God by bringing the Ark to Jerusalem, but now he was overcome with terror, questioning his actions and God's will. He began to realize the profound truth that God's holiness was not something to be taken lightly or treated casually. Unsure of what to do next, paralyzed by indecision and fear, David made the difficult decision to leave the Ark at the house of Obed-Edom, entrusting it to his care. The parade, once so full of life and energy, ended abruptly, dissolving into an unsettling silence. David returned to Jerusalem, his heart heavy with trouble and fear, the weight of the day's events pressing down on him. He understood that God was not simply a treasure to be moved carelessly from one place to another, but a holy presence to be revered. The people learned a valuable lesson that day, that truly honoring God meant diligently following his ways and respecting his commands. The Ark stayed behind at Obed-Edom's house, and David waited patiently, contemplating the events and seeking God's guidance. The Ark stayed with Obed-Edom for 3 months. God blessed his house. Joy, abundance, and happiness filled everything. News of these blessings reached David. David realized God wanted to bless, not harm. The problem was not God's presence, but how they had tried to bring him. David learned God's way must be followed. Meanwhile, enemies attacked, but David asked God for guidance and won. David was learning to listen and obey. God's presence brought life and joy when honored. The blessing on Obed-Edom's house was a message. God wanted to be with his people. David's fear turned to joy. He was ready to try again, this time God's way. The people prepared for a new beginning. David gathered the Levites, the ones God chose to carry the Ark. No more carts. This time they would do it right. The Levites purified themselves and prepared the special poles. David organized musicians and singers for a joyful celebration. The city buzzed with excitement. Instruments were tuned, songs practiced, hearts made ready. This was more than a parade, it was welcoming God himself. Joy and reverence filled Jerusalem. The people understood, honoring God meant careful obedience. The Levites lifted the ark, ready to bring it home. The music would lead the way. The whole nation was united in purpose. God was coming to the center of their lives. The Levites, specially chosen and consecrated, bore the immense honor of carrying the Ark of the Covenant on their shoulders. This wasn't just a task, it was a sacred duty, a physical manifestation of their devotion. The weight of the Ark was significant, but the spiritual weight was even greater, a tangible connection to the divine presence. They followed the precise instructions just as God had commanded through Moses. Every step, every gesture was dictated by divine law, ensuring reverence and respect for the holy object they carried. The parade began, a vibrant, colorful procession snaking its way through the ancient city. People lined the streets, their faces filled with anticipation and excitement. Music, singing, and an atmosphere of pure celebration filled the streets, echoing off the ancient stones. The sounds of joy reverberated throughout Jerusalem, a symphony of praise. David danced with all his might, wearing simple clothes, not caring what others thought. He wasn't concerned with his royal image. His only desire was to express his unbridled joy before the Lord. Sacrifices were offered, and the people rejoiced, their hearts overflowing with gratitude and praise. It was a moment of collective spiritual unity. The ark entered Jerusalem and the city erupted in joy, a wave of jubilation washing over every street and home. David blessed the people and gave everyone food, a feast for all, a symbol of God's provision and abundance. No one was left out. Everyone shared in the joy of the occasion. Not everyone was happy. Michal, David's wife, looked down on his dancing, her heart filled with disdain rather than joy. But David's heart was full. He celebrated for God, not for people. His focus was solely on honoring the divine, regardless of human opinion. The ark was placed in the special tent David prepared. God was now at the center of the city and the nation, both physically and spiritually. The people celebrated God's presence among them, a constant reminder of his faithfulness and love. For David, nothing mattered more than God being with his people, guiding them, protecting them, and blessing them. The best party ever marked a new beginning for Israel, a testament to their devotion and a promise of God's continued favor.